in the band right now is one of accomplishment. It's been a very interesting 3 years in Metallica. And it's been a very different 3 years. It's been a very, at times, difficult, awkward. It's been a ride the last couple of years that took us to places inside ourselves, inside the band, inside the potential of human beings and music and everything that we could not imagine existed.
It's a good time to be in Metallica. We're all very, very psyched about how the album has turned out, and you know, things really couldn't be better now.
The mood of the band is brothers, I would say. The early days had a lot of that brotherhood and just survival mode, you know, and relying on each other for that kind of stuff. And as things got more, you know, the Metallica machine got bigger, we tended to forget about the friendship part. And you start worrying about where the machine's going, and you're part of that, and it becomes survival in a different way. It became a little more protective, and it got a little more isolated. But now, just kind of, well, tearing down all the walls between us and realizing, why are we doing this? Why, you know, and certain factors kind of ignited some of those times. We needed to look inward and just get to be friends again, get to know each other. So we feel stronger than ever. As corny as it might sound, even stronger than the early days, because we have a purpose, we know what we're doing, and we have experience on our side too.
It's been one of great, I think, sense of accomplishment in that through all the ups and downs of the last couple, 2-3 years, that we can sit here now and not only have Metallica back at full strength with an awesome, awesome fourth member, have a record that not only we feel obviously very proud of, but the feedback is very, very positive. To have a tour, it's one of sense of accomplishment. You know, a year and a half ago in the fall of 2001, at the deepest, darkest moments of uncertainty about the future, that seems a lifetime away right now, and sitting here with all this in front of us is just is such an awesome thing.
I've worn out always being afraid, an endless stream of fear that I've made, treading water full of worry.
We went through a lot of diversions prior to making this album. I mean, I hate to say that, a lot of these diversions, or I'd like to call them distractions, weren't really that positive. But, you know, because they're of a negative nature, it acted as a catalyst for us to take stock of where we were at this particular point in our careers, and it forced us to kind of look at our individual relationships with each other and kind of reevaluate the whole situation.
After the load and reload, even prior to that, I could tell we were on a course of needing to I guess, get down to the bones of what we were all about. We need to invade places where you don't belong, or it's just some kind of strange thing we need to do. It's like you have to leave to find out where home is. Doing the symphony stuff, and there might be a bit of, you know, let's do it just because we can, you know. But we did, and we needed to explore some of those parts of us that hadn't been explored.
So close, no matter how far, couldn't be much more from the heart.
Garage Inc. was something that we talked about for years. Playing other people's material is what the band was basically founded on. You know, we started out as more or less a Diamond Head cover band and took it sort of in baby steps from there. And playing other people's material, reinterpreting other people's material has always been a very big and I think important side of this band. And we had to fuck with that. We had to get in under that skin, and that's what ended up being the Garage Inc. project.
I was going over the Cork and Kerry mountains. I saw Captain Farrell and his money he was counting. I first produced my pistol.
A lot of turning of the eyes inward started, I guess, with the Playboy interview. The Playboy interview was a major, I guess, a revealing of how fragmented Metallica was. And interviewing us separately at separate times, just, whoa, it looked like we weren't even on the same, not only the same page, we weren't even the same book. So that opened our eyes to something's going wrong here. And then the Jason not being happy in Metallica, needing to find happiness elsewhere, really made us understand that, are we really happy? You know, are the three of us happy? And let's get there. Let's understand why we're doing this again. Let's get down to the bones of Metallica. And for me, there was a realization that my lifestyle wasn't working for me. So getting an arrangement of priorities was extremely important in finding out, I guess that's the sort of instructions for life for me. So the band needed that, and when I went away, it was I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't care about Metallica. I didn't care about how anyone else felt. In a selfish way, I had to take care of myself, and I had never done that ever in my life. So just unplugging from it all and going away, and you know, even telling them how, you know, I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going. I just know I had to go get some help for me and just kind of let go and let whatever happens, happens. And for me, being a bit of a control freak, that was the scariest thing in my life. And trusting life on life's terms was major. So going away and digging into my past, my present and future, there was a time when I came to the realization that, you know, if it was the end of Metallica, who am I? And that was very important. And the only way Metallica could continue is if I understood that. So it was really kind of a catch-22, and I had to just let go of it all.
I, for the first time in my life and in my life with Metallica, started preparing myself for the possibility that maybe the ride was over. An awesome ride, 20 years, a lot of highs, one or two lows, but what an amazing ride it was. But I think I started insulating myself to the possibility that maybe it had come to an end.
There was some question because after he came out of rehab, he needed to take some time to reintegrate himself into society. That was a big question mark because a person doesn't know how long that's going to take. You know, they could theorize and, you know, speculate, but you never know until you actually take the time out to do what you have to do just to, like, become a part of society again. And so Lars and I, we were wondering when James was going to finally feel like he was in a situation where he can come back to the band. And after a certain amount of months, you know, Lars and I started to think, well, is he ever going to come back to the band?
Kirk and Bob Rock and myself, we got to be experts at speculating ourselves into the worst possible scenarios that we could when there was a lack of communication from Hetfield. So we were very good at speculating. We could, in literally minutes, we could speculate us right into the band breaking up and the whole thing being over. But that's all the distant memory now, thankfully.
When he came back, he definitely wanted to start making music, and Lars and I were just so happy to have him back in the fray. And from there, we decided to reconnect and just get together and just kind of, like, you know, talk and discuss, you know, how we're going to approach what we needed to do, which was make an album.
Artists usually, to achieve a goal in their career, much like these guys have done, to kind of reach where they got with the Black Album and all the albums previous to that, it takes a lot of drive. And sometimes with the drive, you don't really have time to take care of all the little things that may eat at a band or tear a band apart. And so the beginning of this album, that's the first thing they had to take care of. They had to really catch up on 20 years of being a band and not being, you know, On the surface being friends, but not really being close friends. Not the way they thought they were. I've been lucky enough to see them go through that. And it's amazing that they've come through it, you know. I would say history has shown that most bands at this kind of stage can sometimes fall apart. And I think they were very close to that.
The Napster thing, I know it's a lot more difficult for Lars because he was the general taking all the shots, you know. He was out there, actually he wasn't the general, he was on the front lines, you know. And the generals were back safe in management, you know. But everyone shared the feelings that he was saying.
I'm proud of the fact that we did it, and I'm proud of the fact that we have always stood up for protecting what is ours. A couple things I think misunderstandings about that thing. People, you know, anti-internet, you know, pro-record company. The only thing that I'm pro is pro-Metallica. I don't have any really other interests other than that. And in the history of Metallica, we've always stood up and tried to protect what is ours. And whenever somebody's tried to fuck with us, we fuck with them back. In retrospect, should we have seen it coming? Yes. Did we? No. And it was a little bit like sort of, you know, General Custer leading the cavalry, and all of a sudden, like, he looks back and says, hey, where is everybody? I thought you were all with me. Yeah. So that was a bit of a strange thing, but I'm proud of the fact that, if nothing else, it became a very public debate, and no matter which side of the issue you on, at least there was an awareness of it.
He ran with it, and he's always been kind of the talking head for Metallica, and I think it was a wake-up call too, you know. Metallica's kind of had the attitude of, we can kind of do whatever we want, and hey, check it out, we're the mighty Metallica. And there was some opposition, and a lot of times opposition just fuels us in positive ways, not just to do it rebellious-wise. Lars did take a lot of hits, and it still shows up sometimes in his kind of, I guess, his lack of trust in his surroundings or people around him.
In the last year or so, a lot of people have now come up with the sort of post-compliments. You know, you really were right 3 years ago. We couldn't quite see it. You know, but so a lot of people have come and taken that side. I'd still say that if we want to give away our music for free, we will do that. It just should be on our choice. The only other thing to say is just, it's really bugged me when people have this whole thing about Metallica being pro-record company. I mean, can we be serious for a second? I mean, we sort of like invented being anti-record company. We were anti-record company while all these pro-Napster bands were sucking record companies off to try and get a deal.
HQ for us is the sanctuary, complete, well, it's a clubhouse where we can come and just feel completely safe. Having all our gear here, you know, it is like a playground for a musician.
HQ is all about hanging out and connecting with each other and being really, you know, just being a part of the Metallica family.
I think one of the most important things about this place, though, was in those times, the rough times when Jason was parting, I was looking to go find Soul Search. We had purchased this place, and that was kind of this, you know, where all the roots have been ripped up all around us. This one is kind of still there, and it was a little bit of a future trip that, wow, what a great place that will be, or, you know, a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and knowing that this place will be here for us. and the freedom of it being our place.
Well, we used to rehearse here. This used to be a building full of probably about a half a dozen rehearsal rooms. We started rehearsing here in the mid-'90s, and about 2-3 years ago, the guy who owned it was basically like, you know, look, I'm thinking of selling it. You're interested? This room that we're sitting in here is pretty much the only room in the building that's untouched.
And it is a clubhouse in the sense also that the four of us come down here and just, we get like naked emotionally. We just like spill our guts to each other here.
And we have our fan club, our websites, our merchandise, all our offices, everything. So it's really one-stop shopping. The next exit down the freeway is the Grateful Dead, and we always heard about their kind of, their place, and this was sort of like a little bit of that based on their model.
James and I were just sitting in the control room, and I had a St. Christopher's medallion around my neck. And he asked me what it was. I said, oh, you know, it's a St. Christopher's medallion. And I explained to him, you know, St. Christopher is the patron saint of travelers. And you give someone a St. Christopher's medal or medallion to give them, you know, good blessings during their travels, wherever they might go. This particular medallion I had was a St. Christopher's medallion, but on the flip side, I had a surfer. And so what that signifies is, you know, whenever you go out surfing, you know, this medallion will give you good blessings so that you'll actually come back, you know, because whenever you go out surfing, there's a certain amount of danger, and you might drown or get eaten by a shark or just come up missing. And, you know, I explained that to him, and he was like, wow. And then all of a sudden he said, Saint Anger. And I go, that's killer. A couple weeks later, we came up with some music that was just outstanding. And at one point, we said, well, what are we going to call it? And James said, Saint Anger. And it was a match made in heaven because the music just totally fit the title. The title just totally fit the music.
The word anger, it just seems to, in some perverse way, sum up the 75 minutes of this record. It's not necessarily a negative energy. There's just a lot of aggressive anger, emotion, energy running through all the 11 songs in this record. And to me, it's just a great title that sort of captures the mood of this record. With
our new kind of found serenity and brotherhood and peace with life, we've got this monster of an album that's just non-stop, full throttle, all the time. And Saint Anger fit that. It was kind of juxtapositional where, well, for me, going away into rehab, discovering that anger is important. It's a feeling. It's one of the core feelings. And it's what you do with it after is what gives it its reputation. It's got a bad reputation. It's associated with violence a lot, you know, because people don't know how to get their anger out in more of a healthy way, I think. And I was certainly one of those people. It would squeeze out sideways with rage, man. Anger can be such a source of strength, you know. Not in the sense of getting what you want, but stating what you need as a human. And that wasn't me. I couldn't do that too well. So Saint Anger, putting that into, you know, like a patron saint of anger, you know, how strange that would be, because growing up, anger was just, whoa, don't express that in this house, you know. But, you know, Dad, what is this inside of me, you know? So being able to express that in a healthy way and hopefully spreading that message that anger just has got a bad rap, you know?
I've worked with them since the Black Album. I'd say this has been the most relaxed. At least it ended up being the most relaxed. I think there was some great drama through the whole process, but it ended up being in an amazing place.
Bob Rock basically said, you know, a couple of years ago that if we were going to make another record together, we had to completely reinvent the process. We could not go back to the plant where we'd made the last 4 records, go back, put the drums in the same place, and that we had to completely reinvent and fuck up the process, which is also part of the reason that we ended up buying this place, because we knew that this would really challenge us.
This is probably the easiest album we've ever made. This is probably the most stress-free album we've ever made, but by the same token, it's also one of the most aggressive albums that we've ever made. Where it comes from, I don't know, but you know, I'm not going to get in the way of the flow.
Metallica was fueled by negative energy for 20 plus years. In the last year, we have taken, through spending a lot of time working on ourselves and our relationships and all this type of stuff, we've taken and turned that around, and now Metallica is fueled by positive energy that ends up sounding like what you've heard, but the energy in the environment that creates it is really positive. So I think everybody has this kind of weird thing that you can only create true artistic statements and all this type of stuff if you're always, fighting. We've been able to make this really ugly, fucked up record under the most, quote, pleasant of circumstances in the last year in this wonderful clubhouse / metal factor, as we call it.
Wash your back so you won't stab mine. Get in bed with your own kind. Wash your back so you won't stab mine. Get in bed with your own kind. Wash your back so you won't stab mine. Get in bed with your own kind. Wash your back.
We recognize the chemistry that Lars, James, Bob, and I have, and we also recognize that if we were to bring in another party, that might compromise the chemistry that we have between us.
Bob has been a member of this family for 13 years, and when Jason left 2 years ago, we made a very clear and conscious decision that we wanted to make the next Metallica record with Bob Rock as the 4th member. Not so much the 3 of us without a bass player, but Bob being the 4th member of that team. We didn't want to bring in a new person, a new body, a new face into that.
We chose to just go along with Bob because we knew Bob personally. We knew how he was musically. We had worked with him for the last 10 years. And we had great chemistry with him. And so it just made sense for us to use him as a bass player on the album.
We wanted to wait and get a new bass player till the record was more or less done. And Bob, at that time, Bob and James were going to share the bass duties, and then basically, as soon as we got into it, Bob basically took all the bass playing stuff over it and basically became the bass player, the producer. He's written all the songs with us, and he is not only a member of the family, but one of my 2 or 3 best friends. So it sort of works out on every level possible.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. They weren't too hard on me. And I think really, it doesn't sound maybe when you listen to it like there's a lot of fun going on, but really, most of the creative stuff that was going on, we were really just fooling around and having a great old time. So for me, it was a blast.
It became fun. It became fun when we forced ourselves to do it. Doing it together, it just forced us to start from a completely different place.
It wasn't very quick. There was a lot of talking. There was a lot of searching. At the Presidio, with the first part of the session, we were trying to find out where Metallica should be and where it felt right for them to be. So while these guys were getting to know each other, as odd as that may sound, we were still searching for the right place, and eventually we found it.
We sat in this room that we're in now for the better part of a year and came up with about 35 songs. Every single note of music that you hear on St. Anger and every single note of music you hear on the 20 songs that are not on this record were created in this room. Everybody would bring in bits and bobs, ideas from home. Me and James would go off and write in secret basement locations, all that type of stuff. And then the studio became more a place of execution. The studio wasn't, in our past situations, a place of real high creativity. It was more a place where you went and executed what was created outside of the studio. This time around, every single thing was created in this room. And that brought obviously a completely different energy and a completely different sense of connection to each other, because we were all involved in all the moments together.
Coming in here and not bringing a riff, not bringing a song, not bringing a title, nothing. Coming in here without any ideas and creating them in this room with everyone there. That was what we felt was necessary, because for me, as a pretty major player in the songwriting, coming in, it was always a source of just tension. I would bring a song in, and I'd be completely attached to it and the outcome. This is, it's like, here's my heart on a tape, or here's my baby, here it is. People listening to it, and let's take this arm off here and put it here, and it's like, I couldn't deal with it, man. I couldn't hang. So coming here and starting from scratch, it was like ours. We're building it. We're building this Frankenstein, this monster from scratch. And we weren't attached to it. We didn't have personal things attached to it at the end. That was pretty important. And just having it come out naturally, not forcing anything. Just being able to play, not having the bzz, bzz, recording, go, you know, any of that, yeah, freak out of that. You just play, and whatever we play is recorded somehow, and just taking the moments, the magic moments that happen, and those moments were louder than any wrong notes.
How this album sounds to me is that it sounds completely different than anything we've ever done in the past. And I like to use the analogy that it's like going into your garage or your workshop and seeing an old toolbox that you haven't used for years, opening it up and seeing familiar tools, you know, and taking them out and discovering that they still feel, you know, comfortable to work with. And that's what it feels like with this album. What we're doing is we're using tools that we've used in the past and created music that's completely different from anything that we've done in the past.
The idea is to throw away the rule book and to capture as much of the soul and the truth of Metallica. You know, in my head, I think the vision is to almost take them back to where they were first getting together, when 3 or 4 guys get together and say, this is the kind of music we like, let's write some songs, let's do it. That's almost where we went, I think. And of course, with their experience and who they are, it kind of got magnified into being quite brutish, I would say.
I don't really think about what the fans are going to think or how they're going to react when we're in the process of writing and recording. Because, you know, you don't really ever get an accurate picture on what they expect, you know? And first and foremost, I want to be creatively satisfied. And if I can satisfy myself creatively, then to me, I mean, the battle's won.
I think, you know, the one thing that I've kind of realized in the last couple of weeks, as I hear myself talk about all that, is that the most ironic thing and the kind of sad thing about it in some way, if you're going to find some sadness in it, is that in some way that what Metallica is now is the model that Jason Newsted always wanted Metallica to be. We just weren't capable of going there until he left, and that's kind of sad and ironic.
It's so opposite of where it used to be. Lars and I would sit in one room and kind of suffer through songs, you know, at least that's what my feeling was with it. Trying riff after riff, trying to, what's the puzzle? It was so math-like. Here, you just jam and you'd feel it. I'd plug into a new amp, I'd come up with 20 riffs right there. It was amazing, just the freedom, well, the atmosphere, the feelings that we had for each other, resentment-free, how easily things flowed. And we felt like we were going the same direction. And man, we could get places faster than ever before. And trusting that, you don't have to suffer for it to sound good. And there was one point where we were up to 30 songs or something, and I kind of said, you know, isn't that enough? Are we, when are we done? No, let's keep going. Lars would say, let's keep going till we're run out of ideas. Like, dude, I have a, news flash here. I'm never going to run out of ideas. And what a great feeling that is. We could just keep going and going and going and going. And we did. We went on for 2 years. But this is the result. I mean, it was, we funneled. It's like 2 years concentrated into 11 songs. And man, it is powerful. It's dense. It's in your face. It is relentless. But it's not painful to listen to. It's emotionally exhausting. Taking down of the barbed wire around our own individual kind of territories in this band was pretty important. And Bob saw that how heavy that played on me, load and reload. Here's 30 songs, off you go into your cave, and I didn't know where to start. Well, this is a good idea. Do I put it here or here? It was just too much. It was insane. So coming here and starting instantly with, okay, we put the roots of a song together. Here's a cycle, and Bob said, "Here's a microphone." Like, yeah, I know what it is. What? Just put some words to it, sing to it. Well, I don't have any words. Well, you got 5 minutes. Go. Like, whoa, he's challenging me, man. What do I do with that? Do I become 17 and go, "Fuck you, man"? Or do I step up to the challenge? That was right there where I had to get really vulnerable with everyone and say, maybe I'm not the Shakespeare that you think I am. I don't come up with stuff like that. And that's what I thought. But we came up with some awesome stuff right there. And everyone shared the duties. And, well, how about this? I asked for help. Asking for help was, in my macho world, no way, The cliche of asking for directions, pretty much the same in the studio. But man, what a free feeling. And trusting us to come up with some great stuff. And it's okay to, that's not so cool. This is cool. At the end of the day, I felt, I did satisfy my control issues with, at the end of the day, I have to sing. And if it doesn't sing well, that's kind of it.
Yeah, it was very interesting for Lars and I, because it was the first time, or at least for me, that I'd ever sat down and attempted to write lyrics, believe it or not. I'm a guitar player. I sit down, I play guitar, Why should I write lyrics when I can just play guitar all day, right? But for me, it was a mind-blowing experience. I actually didn't want anything to do with it. Bob Rock shoved a pad of paper and a pen in my direction, and I was just like, hey, I don't want anything to do with this. This is James's job. But Bob was very adamant about it, and he said, no, you have to be a part of this. I looked at James. I said, well, how do I do this? And James said, stream of conscious. Just write down whatever. So those first couple of lyric writing sessions were just hilarious because, when you attempt to do something like that for the first time, you don't know what the results are going to be like. But I scribbled down one line, and James singled it out, and he said, that right there is usable. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, that's a really good line. Yeah, our new bass player is Rob Trujillo. We had first come into contact with Rob when we were touring in 1994. He was in a band called Suicidal Tendencies, and they opened for us. And one of the first things we noticed was this amazing bass player, this monster of a bass player who had great stage presence. He had a big sound, and he was a diamond of a geezer.
Our first tour with them was '93, and that was in support of the Black Album. And that was a real big deal for us, you know. That was definitely special for Suicidal.
We are so confident of his playing. It's because there is no carrying this guy. He's a professional bass player. He pounds. He's making Lars play so much better. The power that comes through his fingers, he's a ball of energy, but he's so calm and he's so stable and balanced. It's exactly what we needed in this band, you know. He's got great stuff to offer, but he knows, his personality fits in just right. And that was almost more important than ability, but he brings awesome ability, man. And he's on fire. He's ready he's plugged right into the strength of Metallica and helping it shine.
Rob is strength and weight, and he's got that Vato kind of whole thing. I mean, he is such a incredibly strong, powerful person. At the same time, incredibly gentle soul, and very his energy and his whole kind of almost Zen-like kind of vibe is just like the perfect match. I'm telling you, he's been in our band for 5-6 weeks. It feels like forever. It really does. There's no awkwardness. There's no weird kind of, you know, everybody's like, you're going to haze him? Like, you know, it's completely right.
I got a call from Sharon and Ozzy regarding an audition to come in. You know, they needed a bass player, so I stepped in there, and it was a dream for me. You know, once again, I grew up playing backyard parties. You know, 15, 16 years old, playing Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne songs. So to get up on the big stage and to look over and see, you know, the Godfather up there rocking next to me was so special, you know, and that always happened up till, you know, recent dates, you know, just look over and go, man, I'm playing Iron Man with the man.
My friend and I, we went down the west coast of California on a surf trip. We started in San Francisco, and by the time we made it to the L.A. Area, I asked my friend, I said, who surfs down in L.A. that I would know of? And my friend said, Rob Trujillo. And I said, give him a call. And so he came down, and we surfed for 2 or 3 days. And I noticed that Rob was just a great person. He was just a really, really solid kind of guy.
And then later on down the line, you know, when they sat down and they actually decided on who they were going to bring in to check out, you know, I was fortunate to be on that very short list.
Well, we had 4 guys come up here. I'd be sitting playing there, and then after about 2 songs, I would say, I just got to run to the bathroom. And then I would run into the studio where Bob was sitting listening. I'd go, how is he? And when I did that, Bob just turned to me and said, he's your guy.
I walk in the room, everybody's standing, clapping, not just the band, but you know, Bob Rock's there, the crew, the technicians, fan club employees, people are clapping. I'm just like, wow. I had to smile, you know, like, you know, wow, happy birthday. And Lars says, have a seat. And basically, they just told me, you know, we feel, you know, that in our hearts, we know that you're meant to be the bass player for Metallica, and we would like to welcome you, and we'd like for you to be a member, a partner, a family member, part of our team. And you know, I was, wow, this is not real, you know what I mean? I also, soon after, realized that it was very important for me to sit down with Sharon and Ozzy and let them know what was going on. They kind of already knew, you know, but it was so important to me. So when I got back to LA the next day, first thing, I got a hold of Sharon, and we had a little sit down, and it was pretty emotional. But you know, obviously she gave me her blessings, and I spoke to Ozzy about 3 days after that. He left a message on the phone, and, you know, listen, I'm not mad at you. I'm so proud of you. You've done right by me, lad, you know. And that really meant a lot to me. I can't tell you, you know, how important that was. The first rehearsal was very interesting. We sat down and we actually kind of got to know each other again, because it had been so many years. I hadn't seen James and Lars in so long, so we just sort of caught up. They explained to me the importance of them communicating and their communication deal, and you know, what was important to them on a personal level. And that was very interesting to me, because that was something I didn't expect. And I think for them it was maybe initially a little uncomfortable too, just because we're feeling each other out that way. And it worked out, though. You know, by the end of the day, you know, it you know, felt a lot better.
The first rehearsal with Rob was, to me, just mind-blowing, because he had such a huge sound. And he played with his fingers, which was very reminiscent of Cliff Burton. And we really liked that sound. And so I was blown away, because he delivered on all fronts.
There was never a list or anything like that. It was, what could I play? I mean, I had a 2-day notice. You know, I was actually in Tahiti on a surf trip, and I just happened to check my messages, and there was 2 or 3 messages from the Metallica camp. I was going to be in San Francisco that I arrived home from Tahiti on a Friday. That following Saturday, I needed to be in San Francisco for Mike Borden's birthday party, and Kirk was like, wow, that's great. Why don't you come up on Monday and hang out with us? And so it was kind of like everything was just happening. In fact, this whole experience, it's been like that, you know.
Rob adds another element to it. He doesn't just complete it, he brings it to another level.
We are going to try and make it everywhere we have been in the past, which is, you know, Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, maybe South America, you know, maybe Eastern Europe, Canada. We have plans to go as wide as possible.
Well, we've got such a strong brotherhood right now. To not show everyone how good Metallica feels is a shame. So we'd like to go wherever we can, but do it in realistic terms. We're at this point in life where we can feel comfortable and kick maximum ass every night and not have to worry about a voice or worry about someone's arm or something.
What we're hoping to achieve with Summer Sanitarium is basically, you know, where we left off 3 years ago, is to bring a different experience to the kids and the fans in America. In Europe, there's such a great festival scene where all these different bands play together. You know, we all grew up on a steady dose of American summer stadium shows in the 70s and early 80s, where you had all these Aerosmith, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Blue Oyster Cult, you know, all these bands playing together. They all sort of had different niches and different sounds, and I think nowadays nobody does these stadium things, and it shouldn't be the only thing you're doing, but it could be part of all the different options you have. Summer Sanitarium was basically rooted in the idea of bringing a bunch of headline bands together to play a show for the fans that they'd never see in any other situation. You know, not Metallica plus 4 or 5 support acts, but Metallica plus other certified headliners playing together.
This record is so strong and speaks a lot for itself. And for us, I think, as ugly as they may be, our faces really express what we're feeling on stage. So trying to make it as intimate as possible, you know, face to face, on stage, before playing, after. I think that's pretty important, taking that to you know, a new level, bringing out the real us.
if you're going to bring other headline bands with you in 2003, I mean, on that very short list, I mean, that short list basically is Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and the Deftones and so on. So I'm super proud of the fact that all these guys would come and do this. I have the utmost respect for Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park. I think they're innovators, and I think that both of those bands leave all the imitators that have come up in the wake of them in the dust. And I've heard some of Limp Bizkit's new stuff. It's awesome. I've heard some of, obviously, the Linkin Park stuff is out, and it's just great. You know, I don't take for granted that these bands give a shit about who we are, and it always amazes me and makes me feel proud when I call them up, and it's like, hey, would you come play with Metallica? And they're all, of course we will, just let us know where and when we'll be there.
People will be able to see how we are going to interpret this album live firsthand when they buy the album. Because not only will you get a CD of 11 songs, but you will also be getting a DVD of us playing the 11 songs live.
Deeper than ever. I mean, it's level 5. It's down there. And what's more awesome is I felt over the past that, you know, I'm singing these words. Do the guys know what they mean? Do the guys understand really how much it means to me or it feels to me? You know, I'm on stage singing Bleeding Me and I got a tear in my eye. Are they just kind of, you know, doing this? Now everyone can have that tear or that, or whatever it takes, or whatever it brings, whatever deeper level you get out of a song.
I tell you, I'm blown away. I feel that this album is so honest and sincere. These guys have been through so much over the last 2 years. It's been like a roller coaster for them, just with personal stuff. Saint Anger is it's brutal, it's punishing, it's dynamic, it's groovy, it's grooving hard, you know. And I tell you, it's progressive. These guys, you know, they got something really special. The catalog goes without saying, but this to me is such an important extension of Metallica. You know, it is the new Metallica, and the music is just brutal. It reminds me of like a speed bag, you know, and a heavy bag, and you know, Mike Tyson and every, you know, Roy Jones Jr. just complete sock up, you know.
There's so many facets to the music. All I can say is that it accurately represents where our heads are at musically in 2003. It's a new band in that we have a new approach to almost everything in our lives, and also we also have a new bass player, and so it's the new Metallica, and it's also the new Metallica album, and you know, make of it what you will.
One word to span our career.
Unbelievable.
Tremendous.
Grateful.
A lot of fun.
James Hetfield, rhythm guitar and vocals.
Lars Ulrich, trommer.
Kirk Hammett, guitar and attempted vocals.
Roberto Agustin Miguel Santiago San Juan Trujillo Veracruz, kazoo.
Wait a minute. Got a bad back.
Be cool.
There goes the tour.